precisamente protección ambiental o es protección al interés de las compañías.
Okay. We have a bunch of people signed up to speak, and my name is Mary McRawling. I work at the second largest chain of health centers in Northern California with 28 clinics in the Northern Valley. I'm also a member of the Merced City Council, and I've worked with asthmatic populations for the last 8 years in the Valley as a lifelong Valley resident. But it became really real for me, even more so last week when I gave my 4-month-old his first breathing treatment, and I'm hoping that's not a sign of things to come. And I'm probably going to say things that you've already heard today, but I just want to let you know that in the same amount of time as 8 years I worked with our Valley Air District. And really, frankly, what caused me to run for public office was years and years of like disregard of the public and not listening to hundreds of residents repeatedly coming to the table and hearing excuses about why they couldn't do more. And their response now is, we'll just go to the table and undo the Clean Air Act. So I want to thank you for coming, thank you for your time and for listening and your commitment to continue to come to the table and listen, because as you can see, many people in this room, in this valley, are frustrated because of years of not being listened to and suffering the results in our families as a result. So I want to thank you for coming to the Valley, and I want you to know that you do have support to move forward and protecting the environment. Thank you.
Before Tom speaks, we also forgot Susan Arianda from the Community Water Center PD after meeting ready to speak.
Okay, my name is Tom Grant from Kern County, Southern New and San Joaquin Valley. I'm head of the Association of Irrigated Residents, which is a grassroots valley group. About 10 years ago, we saw the problem of a massive invasion of factory dairies into our area. Like in Kern County went from 40,000 cows to about 170,000 over a 15-year period. So we knew the pollution problem was there, but they were exempt from the Clean Air Act regulation. So we sued EPA. EPA agreed to settle with us and tell California they could begin regulating the source. And there are many stationary sources of emissions at dairies that are major sources from these large factories. So we sued a dairy dam. We were allowed to under the Clean Air Act in federal court here in Fresno, and we won. The judge said they had to not only mitigate as much as they could, they had to buy offsets for their VOC emissions. Great. But the EPA under George Bush stepped into our case illegally and said, we don't think the law is being stated right there. I think we made a mistake. There was a bunch of mumble jumble, but it delayed our case suddenly, put it on hold until EPA would make a ruling. We had great hopes for change and environmental justice issues that come to the forefront a couple of years ago, but that case just sits there. And in fact, the EPA, your EPA, has proposed to make the same ruling that the Bush EPA made in favor of factory dairies, that they don't have to be regulated under the Clean Air Act in the same way as another factory. But we need to find out so that case can either go forward or not, and not just let it sit there. And these are many problems that are repeated, where the talk is great. The talk is great on environmental justice, but the action needs to be there. Thank you.
Presentation about water. We know we're an air quality coalition, but we have colleagues that work on water, so could be Maria. And then after that we'll have Emily and Mary, and Emily Schreff and Mary Curry. Oh, and then the Martinez to close it off quickly.
Good afternoon. My name is Maria Herrera, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator with the Community Water Center. Community Water Center is an environmental justice nonprofit who works to ensure that all communities in the San Joaquin Valley have access to safe, clean, and affordable drinking water. And I know that you have heard from many of the residents in the room about concerns with air quality, but we also have a big issue here in the valley, and that's the lack of safe drinking water. Right here behind me, we have two bottles. One of them is clear, the other one's brown. Many of us would probably avoid the brown one because of its looks, but looks can be deceiving, because actually the darker bottle is actually safer to drink than the pure bottle, and that's because of the contaminants contaminants that's in the clear water. That one is contaminated with nitrates, which is one of the most common contaminants here throughout the valley and one of the #1 reasons for well closure in the state. I know that the EPA has a mandate to uphold the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Clean Water Act, and we're here today because we want you to know that the drinking water crisis exists throughout the San Joaquin Valley. It's not limited to 1 or 2 communities. It's been around for decades. I personally have lived in the valley since the age of 3, and my family and now my kids are having to deal with not being able to drink the water from the tap. And today there was a lot of talk about the methyl iodine, and I think that it's really interconnected with the water, and we support the demand to ask EPA to grant the petition and cancel, suspend any use of the methyl iodine, because we know that methyl iodine will contaminate our drinking water sources. This has happened in the past, and we wanted to make sure that you stop further contamination of our drinking waters, and that is one way that you can do that. With us, we have residents from Cutler, which is a community who right now has unsafe drinking water due to a pesticide, DDCP, which was banned back in the 60s, and even though it's been so long, we still continue to see it in our drinking waters. If you do not act and you do not suspend the use of methyl iodine, you're going to be condemning communities like Cutler to years from now have to continue to deal with the bad decisions that was done in the past. And for that, we urge you not only to listen, but to take action and ensure that you are truly doing your job and protecting low-income communities of color. And we know that those are the communities that are impacted the most. Studies have shown that if you're Latino, low-income, and live in the valley, you have higher chances of having that kind of water, unsafe drinking water. And so, as a souvenir, we want to give you bottled water that's California Central Valley Supply blend, and the ingredients includes nitrates, DDCP, and arsenic, and also a publication that talks about water and health in the valley. Thank you.
And I am here to talk because I have a little bit different message than I think you've heard from a lot of these people, and I thank you, all of you, for coming and listening to us and seeing that these are people, human beings, these aren't statistics, this isn't theoretical, that these people are suffering, and we appreciate your looking us in the face, as you said, and listening to what we have to say. But I'm here because I represent the national parks, and this is a different issue that we'll talk about today in some ways, but people in the valley often think that they're escaping the air when they go to the mountains, but in fact the air in Sequoia and Kings Canyon actually rivals like LA's air. They have as many bad ozone days per summer as LA, so that, I mean, a lot of people have no idea that it's that bad. And so, in addition to the human health and the ways that people are affected down in the valley, there's also a big effect on our natural resources and on human health in the national parks. So I particularly urge you on ozone, PM 2.5, those are the issues that concern us. And then I would also say that personally, I have a story here too. I'm not from Fresno. I came here for work, and I recently got engaged, and I have to say that unfortunately I will not stay here because I want children someday, and I refuse to take the chance, the very likely chance that they will be sick and suffer from asthma and health problems, and myself too. I think there's all kinds of statistics that show that there are premature deaths here due to the air quality, and so sadly I will leave the valley because of this. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Terry. We're very pleased to have you in our community. I'm a member of Concerned Citizens of West Fresno. We have poor air quality. We have many undesirable plants and rendering plants in our community. But I want to digress just for a moment and say that I recognize that much of what we're dealing with today did not happen on your watch, but it's things that you have inherited, which you are now responsible for. But I want you to know that we recognize that. And I also wanted to let you know that given the political climate right now and the moves that Republicans are making, how can we be supported to keep the EPA alive? Because we see the handwriting on the wall. They're trying to disband anything and everything that affects poor people. So how can we as a community ask you to do things for us, but continue to be supportive of EPA so that we can keep EPA?
My name is Lupe Martinez, and I'm with Central Race Power and the Environment. I'm going to be very brief. And without going into when I first started in this whole movement as a farm worker, and I saw Felipe Franco. I worked with his mother, went through the McFarland cluster. I've seen all these things and all these promises by the different administrators that we've had. But I think we have never given up hope. And I think that's what I want to talk about, is the hope that we have that someday, someone, and we're expecting that that someone is you, who is going to do the right thing even when people are not looking. When you're going to do the right thing because you know in your heart it is educated, you know in your heart that it's the right thing to do. Because if one mother suffers, everybody suffers. If one child suffers, we all suffer. I want to appeal to your heart. I want to appeal to your conscience to think under God we're all his children. Thank you for coming. I hope I can count on that.
Today. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for listening, EPA. And in order to keep this conversation going, we would request as follow-up that a page be established on the EPA website where any updated documents can be uploaded regarding the 5 demands that we've made today. We would also request that a staffer at EPA be appointed to these different demands so that as community residents and our advocates have questions, there's someone that they can directly go to with those questions.
I seem very reasonable follow-up requests, so I think we can move on those very quickly. All I wanted to do is once again say thank you, and just to answer the question about supporting EPA. Don't necessarily, especially now take this the wrong way, but it's the laws of this country that are at stake, not any individual agency, not any individual. Certainly not a person, certainly not any group of people. The Clean Air Act can and has worked. It hasn't worked, it's not, the work here is far from done. This area is challenged by sources as well as geography. The Clean Water Act has worked. The laws of this country, one could argue that they might need to be strengthened, but they sure don't need to be, and enforced, but they don't need to be vetted. So my only request on that is that you are obviously passionate, informed, and very effective advocates. Look at the issue in terms of the law and lawmakers who whose time would be spent making sure that the laws are that they pass, that were bipartisan laws are actually enforced. Yes, the agency is under attack, and I suspect that funding for EPA will be a major issue going forward. And perhaps if many people were as engaged as this community is, we would be having a very different discussion. So I'm not allowed to lobby in my job or ask for money or get political. This is my day job. If it was my night job, it might be something different. But please, stay active. And again, the EPA would be one of the places where you will have to see.
No leemos. ¡Queremos justicia!
Excellent.